we're starting this session slightly differently. We're going to come into femur circles as an opener. So if you bring your legs separately in towards your chest and just rest your hands on tops of your knees. If that's a little bit uncomfortable for some reason with the hands position, you could also just place your hands on the fronts of the shins instead. Either way, your hands and arms are gently going to draw the thigh bone a little deeper into each socket. Shins and feet are relaxed. We're not going to hang around in this still position for too long as you're going to start to circle the legs. So the legs move away from each other. You're creating some symmetry there. And it's as if you are only using the arms and hands to do this motion. So as much as possible, try to relax front, side, backs of hips enough, and the shins and feet, that it feels like it becomes an arm exercise. We're just going to circle twice more. It doesn't matter which direction you started in, but we're going to change the direction from here. The circles need not be big, so to comfort, however it feels for you. Again, just a reminder to gently apply pressure to the lower half of the thigh bone in order that the top section can feel like it's slightly more deep within the socket as you're circling round. The other thing I want you to notice is just how the lower back feels. Have you noticed any sort of changes in heat that you might have generated through the lower back? Floppy shins, floppy feet. From here, the next time you draw your knees and feet together, you're going to place your feet separately down onto the floor. Pop them next to each other, just so that you can definitely ensure with your toes apart and your heels into line moment that you are in fact working with the legs alongside each other. You take a breath in wide into the side and back ribs. And as you breathe out, really let go, really relax. It might be quite apparent to you as you're coming into this breathing pattern here, having already mobilized through the hips. There's a bit of space available through the front of the body. There's a bit of warmth there too. So as you're exhaling, you're thinking about letting go in that area in the same way you would normally do. Notice how the back ribs are as well, particularly if you've had your head on a head cushion. They might feel like they're slightly more grounded than normal. You also might feel like you've got some heat back there too, just having had those knees in snug. When you take your next breath out, you're going to start to come into bent knee fall out. So exhaling to part one knee and inhaling to return it back towards the ceiling. Exhaling to part and inhaling to return. Now bringing your attention to your pelvis, just noticing where it is, where it's decided to rest. Could you keep it there? Could you move this thigh bone away and back towards your center line and keep the pelvis relatively still, relatively quiet. Breathing out to allow that parting and breathing in to return each time. You're going to move into the long version of bent knee fall out. So as you exhale next, you're going to part one knee, but this time you're going to straighten the leg down the center of the mat. Roll the thigh bone back into a parallel position and then draw the feet back underneath you. To start again on the other side, exhaling to part and extend. Inhaling to come back to that parallel position and then draw the front of the foot back. See if you can gauge as to whether you're managing to find that foot alongside foot finishing position each time. So great for awareness of just where you are and how you're positioning your feet, and exhaling. And you might find that each time you do the movement it's not quite the same as the time before. Certainly each time you pause with the foot it's not quite in the same place as it was before, but just see if you can go with that. Pelvis nice and still and relaxed. Last one, exhaling to part and slide and parallel and drawing back in from there. If you wanted to, you could just touch the inner feet together just to finish. So again, you know you're working alongside each other. From here we're going to come into bridging. So if you've had a head cushion supporting the back of the head, you can take that away now. You'll take a breath in, and as you breathe out, stand down into your feet. We'll use last week's strategy where you send the big toes forward, so there will be that relevant movement from the pelvis. Inhale up at the top of the bridge. Notice how it feels, particularly through the fronts of the hips. And as you breathe out, nice and heavy and relaxed. From the top of the spine to the bottom of the spine, sit bones widening, and you land back down on your mat. Inhale, as you exhale, feet go down and forwards. That's going to give you a tiny tilt to six, as you all know. How are the big toes doing when you're up here? How are the front of the hips feeling when you're up here? Inhale when you're up, and as you exhale, nice and relaxed, widening through the sit bones and bringing yourself all the way back down again. You're going to begin to add that drawing back underneath you feeling on the way back down again. So inhaling up here, and as you exhale, can you imagine that you draw the heels underneath the pelvis a little bit more in order to bring the spine down towards your mat? It's a bit like you stretch the mat away from you on your way up, exhaling. And if you stretched it a little further away from you on the way up, inhaling when you're up here, as you're coming back down again, could you feel like you draw it back underneath you? The spine will definitely return to the mat further away or from your head, or closer to your feet. You might even feel that the shoulders are lifted. Just see if you can live with that. Because actually the next time you exhale and you stand down, you're going to find that you return to that feeling of length by the time you're back up again. We're going to add an arm arc. As you breathe out, same idea. Feel like you draw the spine back down, arms are raised. And then as you exhale, return the arms down by side. Exhaling, feet go down, lifting and hovering. Inhale, you float. Exhale, returning, still dragging the feet back towards you. This is an inhale to return the arms. We're going to do one more, exhaling, down, to come up, breath in, and breath out. Feet and spine to bring you back, and then returning the arms all the way down beside you. Moving into arm arcs. Breathing in, we've already been there, and breathing out to return. If you really wanted to, you could grab your head cushion for this. Breathing in, especially if you know that it helps with the ribs and just allowing them to soften back a little bit more. Otherwise, it's all about the shoulder blade movement as you're taking the arms up and back there each time. After you've done this last one and returned, you're going to come into your open and close. So you'll breathe in and open the arms out to the side, and breathe out to bring the arms back up towards the ceiling. Inhale, heavy upper arms, widening, and exhale, imagining the body dropping into the mat a little more. Breathing in through your nose and out through the mouth. Breathing into the back of the body and breathing out to return. Last one. Take a breath in when your fingers are up to the ceiling, and as you breathe out, start to come into the shoulder drops. Inhale, widening through the collarbones or the shoulder squeezes. That's it. You want that quality of continuous movement if you can. Exhale. Think about the blades moving away from the spine as you take your fingertips upwards. And the chest broadening as you bring the backs of the shoulders back down again. Notice how the shoulder blades feel relative to each other. Inhale. And last one, exhaling to come up there and inhaling to return. Relax your arms down beside you. Just take a moment to notice how all of that feels, and then you're going to come to lay on your side and bring yourself into book openings. So you're grabbing onto a head cushion, reaching your arms out in front of you with your knees bent. Back of the head is in line with the back of the pelvis. You could look and check, and then bring the soles of the feet into line with that. You'll take a breath in here, and as you breathe out, heavy, relaxed head into that head cushion. Open your arm to the ceiling. Inhale when you're open, and exhale to close. We're just going to do one more like that. It's giving you an opportunity to connect with the palm and open to the ceiling. Inhale and exhale. You start to roll round a little bit further now, so as you breathe out, you open the arm to the ceiling. Keep the movement going, particularly through the neck and the upper body, and then you can drop back through that hip just towards the end of your movement. Just notice the difference. Inhale when you're back here, and as you exhale, if you drop back, you'll send the hip forward first, back to ceiling, and then back to closed. So you bypass all of these little points. They're relevant. Exhale, that was your ceiling point initially. Could you keep coming around? Could you keep dropping the head into the cushion so that you're nice and relaxed through the neck, and then hip if you want to. Exhale, forward there with the hip to bring you back to the ceiling and to bring you all the way back to close. We're going to do two more. Just thinking about as you exhale to get to the ceiling, could you increase the heaviness of the upper arm there coming round, so the arm that's moving appears heavy enough that it takes you round a little bit further eventually, and then as you breathe out, definitely need that breath out, keeping that openness through the upper body and bringing yourself back to your closed position. From here we're going to come on to the other side. Back of head in line with back of pelvis and soles of feet. You breathe out, you relax the side and back of the head towards the cushion. Inhale when you're open there, and then exhale to close. Inhaling, looking at the palm, rotating the head. Inhaling when you're there, and exhaling to close. You breathe out next time, still dropping into your head cushion. You're going to continue to roll round. Notice where you get to, and then add in that moving back of the hip. Inhale when you're open, And as you exhale, the hip will take you forwards if you used it to take yourself back. And breath in and breath out to open. Heavy head. Inhale when you're here. And then adding in a little weight to this arm, so you'll breathe out and you'll open. And keep dropping the head. And think about this upper arm especially becoming heavier in order to bring you round. You'll breathe out and you'll send that hip forwards to help you return, bypassing the ceiling and coming back to your side position. Last one, exhaling to open. Inhaling when you're open, and then exhaling, nudging, and returning. From here we're going to come into your leg raises. So if you bring yourself back onto your back, you don't need head cushions. Leg raises are going to bring us into 100 prep. So bringing yourself onto your back again, toes apart, heels into line. Just notice how that all feels so far as torso connected to the floor. And as you breathe out next, you're going to think about dropping your landmarks into the floor as well as one foot, and you'll float one knee. Inhale with your leg raised and exhale to return it back to your mat. Take a breath in. As you breathe out, a sense of down, let go and float. Inhale and exhale. Just notice how different it feels to do this leg raises or femur arcs movement, having moved already within the hips here. So notice, does it appear even lighter through the leg, having not used the fronts of the hips too much, with your circles and with your bent knee fall out, and with your rotation, just notice how it feels for you. Once you take the leg up towards the ceiling, next standing down, floating up, you're going to keep it there. You'll take a breath in, and as you breathe out again, see if you can drop your landmarks down into the floor on that exhale and float the other leg up with ease. The fingertips are going to come up towards the ceiling, your palms are facing towards your legs, and you're going to draw your knees and feet in towards each other so that they're touching. You'll take a breath in, and as you breathe out, fingertips reach upwards. Carefully nod your chin to your chest. Imagine you've just prepped that through a shoulder squeezy movement. You're going to inhale to straighten your legs long, exhale to reach your fingertips forward, and inhale to lay yourself back down again. You're breathing out. Hover, reach chin to chest and reach the arms to about mid-thigh. Inhale, can you feel like you could curl up higher as you straighten your legs, and again as you bend your legs. So breathing out, chin to chest to curl up. Breathing in, could you feel like you squeeze yourself up higher, and bend your knees and return. We're going to stay up here, exhale. And you're going to inhale, feel like you come up a little bit higher. Exhaling. In 2, 3, 4, 5, and X. 2, 3, 4, 5. In and out. 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 10, 2, 3, 4, 5. yourself down, feet separately, down onto the floor. Notice how that feels. You're going to take hold of your blue band. You're going to start with it around one of your feet. I'm going left foot first, but really it doesn't matter. A little bit of a combo coming up where after you've done your hamstring prep with band or without, depending on whether you've got something available, I'm going to do some inner adductor lengthening, some rolling up and some rotation all on this left side. So you're going to reach your other leg long and away from you. See if you can think about a centered clock. And then as you inhale, softening at the front of the ankle, toes coming back to shin. Exhale, send your heel and lengthen it away from you. Breath in and breath out. See if you can consider that idea that you're balancing something on the sole of the foot if you've got your band here. And if you're not using a band for this moment, then you can be doing the version that looks like a standing balance, where you're holding the thigh into the chest, lengthening and extending. Breathing in, breathing out. You could keep going with this if you felt like the repetitions we've done so far just isn't enough for you, depending on any other activity you're doing. And then what you're going to do, if you're using your left hand, then both straps come into the left hand and the right arm's going to move away from you. I want you to think about what we've done in previous sessions so far as bent knee fallout across the front of the hips. So what you're going to do, as you exhale, you're going to start to think about the leg moving away from the opposite hip. It's slightly rotated outwards, and as it goes, the elbow comes down towards the floor. So it could be as tight or loose in the band as you want, but know that once the elbow's down, you can really sort of let the leg fall out to the side. You're then going to bring the leg back to the ceiling and start to lengthen the elbow once more. So as you breathe out, simultaneously draw the elbow to the floor. Imagine that the leg can only move out to the side because that front hip bone allowed it. You definitely gain some support within the pelvis from the elbow being down. And then as you inhale, bring the leg back up towards the ceiling, and you could take the elbow away as well. And it just helps if you're not too keen on the hold and the gripping for such a long time. It alleviates that so that the next time you breathe out and you pull on the band, which for me is quite taut, but you could play around with it. You're working quite hard through the hand, you see. As you inhale, lifting upwards. We're just going to do one more. Definitely looking at very slightly the toes leading you out to that side. And then inhale to come back. From here, we're going to roll up. You're going to keep the band in the same foot, and you just want to transfer the straps back to each hand. Again, play around with the tension. I'm going to have mine quite tight. As you breathe out, start to take the back of the thigh away from you. Nod your chin to your chest. Feel that you're pushing the center spine in towards the floor. Notice the shape through the upper body so far as the shoulders, and bring yourself all the way up to sit. Once you're up to sit, using your left hand, so whichever leg you're stirruped up with, as you breathe out, you're going to rotate to the left collarbone wide, swiveling ribs all the way around with the gaze. Inhale, you'll bring yourself back, and as you exhale, you're going to turn the dial to number 6 and roll yourself all the way back down again, eventually taking the leg up towards the ceiling. Inhale when you're here. Exhale, that leg moves away from you. Nod your chin to your chest. Feel like there's an element of dropping body back into floor while the shoulders wrap around the sides of the arms. Inhale. As you exhale, pulling. Now you turn the palm to face upwards on the elbow that's coming in there. And you inhale. And you exhale to roll yourself all the way back down again. This is going to be the last one with the last rotation, so breathing out. Backs of shoulders, coming up to sit. And then as you exhale, round you come, and inhale. In this seated position, you're going to switch legs, and you're going to roll down with the other leg stirrups, and take the other leg up towards the ceiling. Elbows down on the floor, coming into inhale to soften and exhale to extend. Inhaling, toe coming back towards shin, and exhaling to lengthen. Breath in, breath out. See if you can keep reaching the other leg long and away from you. After you've done this last one, you'll take both straps into one hand. So same arm as leg here. The other arm moves away from the body, it's relaxed, it's on the floor, and it might give you a feeling of leaving some weight behind. As you exhale from the opposite hip bone, allow the leg to move to the side, elbow coming down towards the floor. The elbow helps with a bit of support. If you can let go through that inner seam, do so. And as you inhale, bring the leg all the way back up towards the ceiling. You could, again, exhale, down you come. You could stay here, depending on how it is. And as you breathe out, you could come back up towards the ceiling. So you give yourself a little bit more time there. Otherwise, definite exhale to start to move, to feel the support from the opposite hip bone as best you can, to allow for some give through the inner, and you might even feel it all the way down towards your knee. It doesn't have to be huge. I do advise though that you almost allow the toes to go first, so the thigh bone is in that slightly outwardly rotated position as it moves away from you. And then back up. Last one. From here we're going to come into our rolling up and rotation sequence. So as you breathe out, the back of the leg goes forward. It's a little bit like having the magic circle around the foot for that initial movement. So thigh moves away first. Feel like the back of the body drops into the floor to bring yourself up to sit. Inhale. As you exhale, probably see slightly better on this side that the palm turns up as the ribs rotate, collarbone gaze. Inhale to bring yourself back, which basically brings you into an exhale to roll down. So it matches perfectly, which means that you can have that feeling of continuous movement throughout this. So you'll breathe in here And as you breathe out, you'll nod your chin to your chest, that back of the thigh goes forward and away from you. You'll inhale when you're upright, and as you exhale, start to rotate collarbone, ribs. There's still like a cylinder above those waists and hips. Inhale, last one. Easy through the front body to bring yourself back. Breath in. So just if I could cue this last one slightly better. The leg goes ahead of that chin to chest moment, and you'll feel it, and just make that connection between this move and magic circle. Last one. And then inhaling to return. From here, you're going to stand into the band with both feet. You're going to cross the band over, and we're going to come into teaser here. So as you exhale, you're tilting. And again, you could play around with the tension in the band, bringing yourself all the way down towards the floor. Now exhaling, nodding your chin to your chest. It's the same upper body movement, you've already prepped it with a single leg, but you here start to lift the legs away from the floor now. Give the movement the appearance of being quite light, arms moving out to the sides. Take a breath in, still feel like you're just about managing to stay on the back of the sit bones, and then exhale. Keep tilting to number 6 as best you can in a tailbone to get up and over first before you get to sacrum. Just clock this 100 position here, really low where your lower back's in on the mat, and lay yourself down. Take a breath in. As you breathe out, nod your chin to your chest. Send the spine into the floor. That element's quite important. It's that idea that you fill up the pockets of space as you come up. See if you can stay on the back of the sit bones. And then as you exhale, starting to return, you're still being pulled along in 2 directions. And there's a sense of security for the feet that is nice, but doesn't take away from the fact that the movement is challenging still. We'll do one more. Exhaling. And we're going to finish on the up. Arms are going to be pulled out to the side. It's just coordination, it's just organisation, and how that works out for you to come up. And once you're up, you can unwrap your feet, leave your band to the side, and we're going to come into side bending. So side mermaid first with a counter bend, and then into the side bend that we did in last week's session. So if you're facing your screen, left leg in front, right leg behind you, so you'll be bending up and over to the left, lifting your right arm to begin with. Inhale to lift everything, shoulder included, then exhale to take yourself over to the side. Breath in when you're here, and breath out to bring yourself back. Inhale to lift. Breath in when you're over, and breath out to bring yourself all the way back. Inhaling. Even if you're sure that the shoulder blade is moving with, you're going to visualize that it comes out off the back. Inhaling. Allow that movement to lift and fan out, as do your ribs as you flex. And then as you breathe out, you're going to come back. You're going to lift the opposite arm. Now this movement definitely wants to feel like it's a more of an up only. You're going to protect the knee that you're bending towards, but also with your hip being in the way, the idea of bending feels very different. From here we're going to bend once more, but we're going to bend over into side bend. So as you know, the back leg comes over the front. You've got the sole of the foot on the floor there. The priority is to be aware of this foot. So tap it on the floor a few times like I'm doing if you wanted to. It's the edge that you want to be aware of. You'll reach this hand away from you and you can play around with it depending on how successful you are first time. You want the shoulder to finish pretty much directly above that. You know that that's a good organisation tool when you've got your forearm on the floor. So I'm going to push down into the floor with the outer edge of the foot first, and that's going to help me lift the hip off. And then I'm going to take the arm up into that side bend. I've moved onto the front edge of the foot. Just notice that if you can see. And I'm on the outer edge of that back foot still. Carefully I'm going to bring myself all the way back down again. This hand just rests on the leg from here on in. So as you breathe out, edge of foot for pelvis lift to bring yourself all the way up. And then stay in this arm, stay in this side, stay in your legs as you bring yourself all the way back down again. Exhale, outer edge to bring yourself up. Inhaling and then carefully bringing yourself all the way back down again. We'll do that same sequence on the other side. So starting with prepping the bend, you've now got your right leg in front and your left leg behind you. Square yourself off. How does that feel? Your legs could be straight out in front of you if you wanted to. Inhale, you're lifting, and exhale, you're bending. Breath in when you're over, and breath out to bring yourself upright. Inhale, and exhale. Breath in, and breath out. Inhale. Last one. Back leg comes over, sole of the foot starting on the floor, outer edge here. Hands away from the body. And take a breath in. As you breathe out to get you going, downward force of the edge there to lift the hip to bring you up. Arm is coming up and over just as it did do. See if you can find the inner border of that front leg this week, and then still pushing into the arm as you carefully sit yourself back down again. Taking a breath in, so you breathe out, edge of foot down, pelvis lifts up, arm coming to ear. If you tried this last week and it didn't work out for you, you're not ready for it, just didn't sit well, then you could easily be doing regular side bend now with your bent legs or your straight legs. So exhaling down to come up. You've still got some options. And then sitting yourself down. All that remains for us is our sequence of abdominals. We're going to come into assisted roll down, single leg stretch, into crisscross, into single straight leg stretch. 8 of each. See how you go. You could cut them short. You could take out crisscross, for example, or you could do 4 or 5 of each rather than going for 8. So you're going to sit tall. As you breathe out, the feet go down and forwards. Again, that feeling of trying to stretch your mat forwards as you tilt, and you're going to draw your feet towards you when you're ready to. They come to that vertical position Notice how the elbows start to move outwards. And then to start, you're going to bring one knee into your chest. The other arm comes onto the top of the knee, and you've got that feeling of lifting up into that shin. Big toe replaces big toe. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. From here, leg extends up towards the ceiling, back of the leg forwards, and you exhale and you switch. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Leg bends in, interlace hands, rotate towards ribs to pelvis. Exhale, 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Knees into your chest. Lay yourself down and bring your feet separately down onto the floor. Knees and feet together, quick side to side before you come to lay on your front. So as you breathe out, sway over. And as you breathe in, bring them back. Exhaling and inhaling. Once you're finished there, you're going to come to lay on your front. You want your band for dart. Then we're going to come into some double leg kick legs, and then we're going to come into full double leg kick. So laying on your front, walk your legs away from your pelvis. If you haven't got a band, doesn't matter, regular dart. All of this work is doable without your props. Holding the band close to the sides of you, so you still feel that the arms are connected to the body, or the hands certainly. I'm going to start with a forehead hover. So inhale, create some length up through the middle spine, widen through the collarbones. Keep lifting, keep opening. Perhaps the hands leave the body, and then exhale to return. Inhale, length and width. Gaze and exhale. Inhale. Last one. Move your band to the side. You're going to rest your head on your hands, and you're going to reach your legs long, big toes, tops of the thighs push down into the floor, knees begin to bend. Extend your legs away from you and rest down. You've got options to use flexed ankles here, so you could reach the legs long, tops of your thigh bones pushing in. You could add a flex of the ankle there coming in, depending on how you're feeling through the calves and through the Achilles. Tops of the thigh bones push down again, and you've got the idea of trying to work towards 6 with your pelvis. So lengthening and flexing, or reaching away. Flexed or pointed feet, it's up to you. Lengthening. Last one. These movements of legs and feet again with your choice of ankle flexion or length or pointed feet. We're going to add together into your double leg kick. So I'm going to do the version that requires you also to add a head turn. You didn't have to do that, you could just keep your full header to hover throughout. If you start with your arms quite high up through the back and the elbows relaxed, it helps you figure out what you're going to do first with the arms, and that's sliding them down the centre of you. So inhale and think about length from the shoulder blades to the back of the neck to the crown. You're widening through your collarbones. Imagine that dart and elasticity you get with your band, but you're not going to straighten your elbows. You're going to reach the legs long, send the tops of the thigh bones into the floor, and as you come back you'll turn your head away. So this is either one knee bend with pointed feet or one knee bend with flexed. Same movement, collarbones, and lengthening to bring yourself up, and then turning your head to bring yourself back in again. So when your knees are bent, your elbows are bent. When your legs are straight, you can think about your spine being straight if it helps you with the organisation. See if you can hold on to the nature of the extension. So you breathe in, lengthen, shoulder blades, back of neck, crown, collarbones, and then you turn. I'll do two more. Feel free to pause. Last one. And relax. From there we're coming into a child's pose. So rounded body, knees bent, relaxed body. As always, onto your back with your knees into your chest if you prefer that kind of roundness for your own body. You could also come into a cat stretch. Again, not necessarily looking at a shape or a pose, more a sensation of can I create more openness through the back of my body. And then from here we're going to come onto hands and knees, take you out into a plank and bring you into a standing upright position, and then we'll just have your roll down and your roll up to finish. So if you bring yourself onto your hands and knees where you've got plenty of mat behind you, that you can extend a leg, curl the toe under, and you're there. Push down into the floor with one hand and the diagonally opposite knee. The leg that's free, that's not being pushed down towards the floor, will be the leg that's extended. Curl your toe under there. Think about being long. So the toe digs down towards the floor, you're long through the back of that leg. If you keep creating length, particularly through the front body, as you push down into the floor, you're out into a two-legged plank, long. Send your heels backwards. Just have a look at this. So the heels go backwards. That's to stretch the back of you. So your calves, back of legs, Achilles. And then you walk back to your feet. And that moment's going to happen each time you come in and out of a plank. Let go, relax. And as you exhale, at the front of the body, moving away from the legs, moving away from your clothing, leaving the hands behind, leaving the head behind. Soft knees for as long as you want to before you appear upright. A little side step so you can just get a slightly fuller view. And then as you exhale, nod your chin to your chest. Soften and relax. Heavy hands, still feeling like you're diving up and over something. Notice when your head really manages to let go. Notice the movement of head away from jaw. And then walking out into a plank if you want to, standing strong when you get there, along through the body. Important that you see if you can find that my hips low enough at the back of my head, lifted enough gaze-wise, and then here's a moment I'd like to see a little bit more of in class work. So the heels actually go back before the hips pike up. And you soften your knees. And you relax and let go as much as you want to. And as you exhale, it's that, can I create space between my torso and my legs? Can I lift the front of my body away from my clothing? The knees can stay soft depending on what you're experiencing. Up the chain here, or maybe even up the chain here through the groin in towards the lower abs. And that's it. Done and dusted. Well done, everyone. Take care.